Please grab a siddur. Grab a siddur and a red chumash. If I could ask everyone to come in and please take a seat. If you could grab a siddur, blue siddur, they're located right in the door when you first enter, as well as a red Eitz Chaim Chumash. For all those joining us over on Zoom, or if you're here now in person, Shabbat Shalom. We're going to begin services with Birchot HaShachar, the blessings over the dawn, followed closely by Birchot Pesukei D'Zimra, songs of praise. This is the warm-up. Not yet. This is the preliminary part of the service before we officially get into Shacharit. I'm Rabbi Michael Stanger. I'll be beginning the service. Again, we're on page 65, page 65. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise. We respond Amen after each and every bracha, after each and every blessing on page 65 that we hear. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sa'aviv v'ne'emchem beinu u'bein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'tzomoho. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shasani ben chorihim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokech ivrihim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam al pi sharumihim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam atir asurihim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufihim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rakart al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasol lekot sarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam azer zera b'gvuraha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ater zera b'tifarah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam haten life koach. You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam mir shnayim anayim anam hafapai. Uneina hayam uvokol yom ulchenu chesed rachamim beinech l'reinu karenu b'kemilin chasadim tovim Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael yihirat samafenecha l'havavatah shalom hayam uvokol zavanim uzidim manim b'dam racham ebra mesek kol namil garfashan. Ashreinu matelcha, keinu mana im gorleinu ma yarfar shotenu. Ashreinu shanaknu mashkim yarvim, arvarvakum rabbim b'machayim yom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. B'Shem kavod malchato le'olam va'ed. Hatushan le'olam, hatumishan le'olam, hatum alazam v'zenu olam haba. Kadeshin shalom mekdesh shemecha, kadeshin shalom le'lecha, shitcha tarim v'tikach karneinu. Baruch atah Adonai mekdesh shechma b'rabihim, hatum shalom ha'aretz. Beit Haviyadchem, Beit Gatzbiyadchem, Ki Yeten Lechem, L'Shem Yitalei B'Cholam Haaretz, Ritshechem Lechem Amar Adonai. Page 70. Rabbi Shmuel Amel B'Shlosh Sebot, and Roger Shmuel Chashem. דבר המימיון, דבר המסופו, וכן שניכם מחשים זה, שבו הכתוב על שחרור ביניכם, ירצון מלפניך, דרלם הלבתנו, שתן חלקנו בתורתך, ונלמית אלמית על שור הכהן, אוהב שלום ורדי שלום, אוהב את הבריאות ומור קורבן, לתורה. Page 71, Kaddish Rabbanan. All those in mourning observing a yard site, please join me. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Perlman divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayed d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'galau v'zman kari v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'me'el maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah brechu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'yimaru amen. Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Talmidei v'al kol Talmidei v'al kol mandeskin baraita divatara hadein v'dibachol atar v'atar Yehelachon Lachon Shlama Rabba China V'chista V'rachamin V'chayin Arichin V'mzona Rivicha Uforkana Min Kadama V'hon Divishmaya V'maru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayin Tovim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'maru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mramav Huvrachamav Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'maru Amen. 72 Shir Shel Yom, the Psalm for Shabbat. Hayom Yom Shabbat Kodesh, Shabo Himlim Brit HaMikdash, Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov L'Adol L'Nai L'Zamel L'Shem Chal L'Gadi B'Chol Chostecha, B'Mincha B'Leilot, Alei Asor V'Elo Navel, Yagin B'Chino Arkizana. Sadiq Katami Fra, Keres Balvanon Iske, Shatulim Bevet Adonai, Bachatrat Elohim Yafrichu, Od Yanublim Beseva Shanim Ranim Yu, Lagiki Shardonai, Tzrivalo, Vlatabo. Page 81. Mis Moshir Chanukat Habayit LeDavid. Hafakna mispadil machali pitaka sarkaisa sim simcha lamani zemecha chavo v'lo yidom Adonai Elohai L'olam odeka. Page 82, Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Perlman divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayed d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'galau v'zman kari v'yimeru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'me'ol maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah brechu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'yimaru amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimaru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mramav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimaru Amen. We rise, page 83, for Pesuke de Zimra, the beginning of She'amar. Baruch Shema v'haya olam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu v'sevashri, Baruch Hu mervoseh, Baruch Hu zem kayem, Baruch Hu merchem al aretz, Baruch Hu merchem al brio, Baruch Hu shemachon zera l'rav, Baruch Hu ha'elad v'kayem lana nechsaf, Baruch Hu matzio, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Atara melech haolam, ha'el havach ram mefiamo, Mishivachim far bishon chasitav, Uradav shrei David avdech, Nelech Adonai l'hid bishol, Miziro, Negdech l'neshvechan v'char, Neskeshim chal m'chamacheinu, Elchinu yachid chei olamim, Melech Mishivachim v'teit shemo hagado, Baruch atah Adonai, Melech mahulal, batish v'chahohot. You may be seated, page 96, Ashrei. Ashrei Yoshvei Techo Jalu Chasela, Ashrei Ha'am Shekachalo, Ashrei Ha'am Shadonai Elohav, Tehillah LeDavid. פותח את ידיך ומצביע לכל חי רצון, צדיקים בכל דרכיו וחסי בכל מעשיו. קרוב עיני לכל קרב לכל אשר קרוב האמת. רצון ויבסה ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם. שמר אדוני כל בעבר קשים ישמיעי. תהילת אדוני ידבר פיו, יברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד, ואנחנו נברך מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah, page 100. Hallelujah, shir lana shir chadash, shil b'chal chasidim, yisach b'Yisrael b'sav, b'nei Tzion yagil v'machom, yalu shemo v'chol, yachol v'chol. La'asor ma'chaim b'gizingin b'chalei v'lai mazel, b'asel l'hasbot b'shkat, hador l'chol chasidav, hallelujah, hallelujah, halu b'kodsho, halu b'kiozo, halu b'gevurtav, halu korov gudlo, halu b'tek ha'shofar, halu b'nevel v'chinor, halu b'tofu machol, halu b'nim b'gav, halu b'tziot tzalei shema, halu b'tziot tzalei trua, kol neshama hallelujah, hallelujah, kol neshama hallelujah, hallelujah, Baruch Olam, amen, amen, Baruch Olam, b'yitzion, chosher sham aliyah, Baruch Elohim, oiser lovdo, Baruch Shem kavado, l'olam yimlech v'do kol haaretz, amen, amen. We rise, top of 101, v'yivarech David, l'nei kol kahal, v'yomer David. We rise, top of 101. Atahu Adonai Elohim, asher b'charta Abraham, v'asetemo kastim v'santa hashema Abraham, v'matzata l'mol l'am v'necha, v'charot imo habri l'tetet kanani hachit yomar v'vasi gashi l'tetet. V'haya bakata lifnei haruviduchlan yamabah shadafrim shalakti muslokim avem b'mayim azihim v'yosha Adonai v'yom Yisrael miyam Yisrael Yisrael mat Yimtzayim v'tel safat hayam Yisrael tegedola asher sadam Yisrael v'him v'Adonai v'him v'Adonai Moshe avdaho az yashir Moshe v'Yisrael tashir zelamor shir Adonai kivo agav sudfor chom aviyam ozi v'zimar chavai l'yeshua. Mikdash Adonakono Yedecha, Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed, Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed, Ki Lana Machal Moshe B'Galim Lo Mishim Ha'artzim Sh'Batar Kisa, V'Hayitel L'Malcha, V'Hayitel L'Melch Kol Haaretz, V'Yom Adonai Echad, U'Shemo Echad. You may be seated. We continue at the top of page 105, page 104. Nishmat Kol Chai, the breath of all that lives, praises your name. Nishmat Kol Chai, Tevarech Shemcha Adonai Eloheinu. Michamocha batzil anay mechazek mimenu v'ani v'avyon v'gizulo mi yidmeh lach mi yishaveh lach mi yarech lach ha'el ha'gadol ha'gibor ha'nara el yon k'neshama ba'aretz and l'ach l'neshamacha v'recham v'rech l'shim kodshecha ka'amor l'advi barchi nafshi et Adonai v'chol krovai et shem kodsho ha'el b'tatzumot u'zecha ha'gadol b'ichlot shemecha ha'gibor l'netzach v'hanara menoratecha ha'melech ha'yoshev al kisei ram. We pause for a moment. I'd like to invite up our Bachor HaBar Mitzvah, our Bar Mitzvah boy, Jonathan Perlman, along with his parents, Leslie and Sam, to present him with his very first talit, his Bar Mitzvah talit. Yeah. Yeah. Now, nice and loud, say the bracha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kinishanu b'mitzvotav v'tivanu lehid hatef b'tzitzi.
Beautiful, very
Amen.
nice. As we say in your father's favorite sport, football, it's up and it's good. And of course, the most important part of the talit is the fringes on each side, the tzitziot, which remind you of your connection to God, Torah, and the Jewish people. One of the first of many blessings to recite this morning. So you can join my colleague, Cantor Yossi Caravani, on the other side of the sanctuary on his bima. We'll hear from you in just a moment, but right now, as they say in my favorite sport, baseball, you're batting 1,000. And we continue in the middle of page 105 as we segue into the official beginning of the Shacharit service with Shochenad.
שוכנד מהרום וקדוש שמו.
Shochenad, Maharom, Vekadosh, Shemaho.
לפי שם תתהלל ודברי צדיקים תתברך ובשון חסידים תתרומם ובקרב קדושים תתקדש.
ובמחלות רביבות עמך בית ישראל.
שכן חובת כל היצורים לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו להודות לה לשבח לפאר אלוהים להדר לברך לה ולקלס על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות דוד בן ישי עבדך מהשיחך.
We rise top of 106.
יתשבח שמך לעד מלכנו. שמתי נו.
Yikadav v'yitkadash shemei rabban.
אמן.
Be'amad ivra kirute ve'amlich malhute.
B'chayechonu yomechon u'chayetecho beit Yisrael.
Ba'agala
ובזמן קרים
V'yimeru
Amen.
Yehi shmei rabban mevora le'olam ulam mehomaya Yitbara v'yitzabat v'yitpa'ar v'yitbroma v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalel v'yithalal shemei dekudashah b'rehu le'elam mikol birhata v'shirata tushbehata v'ne'emata dabiram be'alma v'yimeru Amen.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך העולם יוצרו ובורא חושך עושה שלום ובורא את הכל.
You may be seated, middle of page 107.
Jerry, leave it. It's good. אין כרכך אדוני בעולם הזה ואין זולתך מלכנו לחיי עולם הבא. אפס בלתי חגלנו למות המשיח ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים. אל אדון על כל המעשים ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה גודלו וטובו מלא עולם דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו. המתגאה על חיות הקודש ונהדר בכבוד על המרכבה זכות ומשול לפני כיסו חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו טובים מאורות שברם אלוהינו יצרם בדעת בבינה ובשכל כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה נאה זיום בכל העולם שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים במה רצון קונם ער וכבוד נותנים לשמו צהולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרחות והתקין צורת הלבנה שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מהרום תפארת וגדולה שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש ליל אשר שבת מכל המעשים. תתברך משה נושב במעשה ידיך, אבל מראש עשית יפרוך הסלע. תתברך צורנו, מלכנו וגואלנו בורא קדושי. כולם אוהבים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים במעבירה לצאן קונם. וכולם פותחים את פיהם בגושיו תורה ושיריו זמרה. וברכין ומשבחין ומפארין, ומעריצין ומקדישין וממליכין. את שם האל המלך הגדול והגיבור מאור הקדוש הוא. להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ונימה קדושה, כולם כאחדונים ואומרים ביראה. קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. בפנים בחיות הקודש, ברעש גדול מתעשינו מהצרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, ליל ברוך נמות איתנו. אור חדש על ציון תהי ונזכה כולנו נאמר על אורו, ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
111.
אהבה רבה אהבתנו אדוני אלוהינו. וערננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה ליראה את שמך. לא נבוש, לא ניכנם לעולם העד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. קרבתנו שמך הגדול סלע באמת, תודותיך נחתך לאהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני. הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed, Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, Bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meyodecha, Vehayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochim metzaveha, hayom alevaveha, veshinatan levaneha, vedibarta bam, veshifteha beveteha, uvlefteha amvadere, ushot beha, uvkumeha, ukshartam leod al yadeha, vehayu letotafo, beineneha, uftaftam, al mizito beteha, uvishareha.
וים שמעת שמוע המצווה שלכם מצווה אתכם היום, לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיכם לעובדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם. למען ירבו ימיכם ימי בניכם על האדמה שנשבע אדוני לאבותיכם לתת להם כי מהשמיים על הארץ. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר בני ישראל אמרת להם עשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם מדורותם ונתנו הציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת והיה לכם לציצית וריתם אותו זכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם אחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי ביתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת ויציב ונכון וקם וישר ונאמן ואוהב וחביב ונחמד ונעים לדור ודור כאן שמו קם חיסון נכון ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיימת ודבריו חיים וקיימים. עודנו מצילנו מעולם שמך אין אלוהים זולתך עזרת אבותינו אתה ומעולם. תחילותינו ברוך ומברך משה מנסה לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך
באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא
שירה חדשה שבחו גאולים לשמך שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו
אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד
צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל עובדכם עמך יהודה וישראל גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We rise, page 115b, and we look straight ahead at the Aron Kodesh, the Holy Ark, and of course eastwards towards Jerusalem, page 115b.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וסוהר השדה ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי מתים אתה להושיע מוריד הטל מחלקי חיים בחסד מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים סומף נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מחמוך בעל גבורו ומדומה לה מלך ממי ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו אז בקור רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מתנסים לו מצרפים לו מתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך במקומך מכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב וקרוב בימינו בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון תתקדר ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים ועינינו תראנה ועינינו תראנה מלכותך כדבר אמור בשירי עוזך על דוד משיח צדקך
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיו
ציון לדור ודור
לדור ודור
לדור ודור
לדור ודור
לדור ודור
לדור ודור נגיגו לך לדור ודור לדור ודור
לדור ודור
לדור ודור נגיגו לך
ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד
לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, גדול וקדוש אתה. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue to daven silently in the Hebrew and the English through page 120. If you're still davening the Amidah, please don't interrupt. We continue with Kaddish Shalem, page 138.
יתגדע ויתקדש שמר הבא, ועל מה דברה קירותם ונפותיהם, חייכון ומכון חי לכו בית ישראל, בהגרה זמן קרב ואמרו, אמן.
יהי שמי רבא מבורא, לעולם עולם מעולמיה יתברא.
יתברא וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה.
בריחו.
לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן ועלמה ואמרו.
אמן.
יתקבץ לוטון ובוטון דכל ישראל, קדם עוון דבשמע ואמרו.
Amen.
יש למה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו.
Amen.
עושה שלום
במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו.
Let's be here. Good morning everyone, please. Hey, יעשה שלום.
Hey.
יעשה שלום.
Hey.
שלום עלינו על כל ישראל. יעשה שלום. יעשה שלום. שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ואמרו אמן.
And page 139, Seder Kriyat HaShorah, the service are opening up and taking out, and subsequently reading from the Torah scrolls, page 139.
אין כמוך באלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך עולם ועד. אדוני עוז. He's running. אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. אהבה רחמים, היטיבה ברצונך את ציון. תבנה חומות ירושלים, תבנה חומות ירושלים, כי בך לבד בטחנו, מלך רם ונישא, אדון עולמים. Now come with me, please. We're going to the bima. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים, ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל לקדושתו. בריך שמי דמי עלמא.
We continue with the Aramaic passage from the Zohar, middle of 139, until the sixth line from the top of page 140.
באנרחץ ולשמי קדישה, קדישה יקירה, אנא אמרתו שמך. באנרחץ ולשמי קדישה, קדישה יקירה, אנא אמרתו שמך.
From the ark, and it is passed from generation to generation, from Jonathan's grandparents to his parents, to his siblings, finally to John himself. Lador vador, as we say in Hebrew.
דור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים. קדושתך נהקדיש, לשבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול, בקדוש אתה. כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול, וקדוש אתה. Please. All the family, nice big line facing the congregation. Sure. Parents, on right side, left side, please. Rebecca, I want you here. Jordan, I want you here.
Jordan.
Closer, closer. Saba, Safta, closer, closer.
Closer, Dave.
Yes.
Your Saba and Safta.
Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Adonai, Adonai, Moshe, Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe, Torah, 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 Torah.
You may be seated. The Torah reading for this week is Parshat Behalotecha. The Torah reading can be found in your large red books. Your large red, it's Nine Chumashim, beginning page 826. 826, chapter 10, verse 35. If you're listening at home with a different edition, it is chapter 10, verse 35 of the book of Numbers, Parshat Behalotecha. And what you're going to hear when the cantor chants beginning verse 35, if it sounds familiar, of course, it's what we say when we take out the Torah. Vehi ben so Haron veyomer Moshe kum Adonai v'yinusu mistanecha mipanecha. Right? That wasn't liturgy created by the rabbis in the early Middle Ages, but it actually goes back to the Torah itself. Page 826, verse 35 in the Hebrew or the English.
אתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם, חיים כולכם היום. Coming up. Coming up. Good job. I'm very impressed. Wow. You just feed it. Okay. How are you? Receive the blessing.
Baruch atet Adonai hamvara.
Baruch Adonai המבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai hamvara le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachman banu mikol ha'amim. V'tanan lanu at Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Hold the Torah here. ויהי בנשוא אהרון ויאמר משה קום אדוני ויפוץ אוהביך ונוס משנאיך מפניך ובנוחו יאמר שובה ישראל שובה אדוני רבבות אלפי ישראל ויהי העם כמתאוננים רע באוזני אדוני וישמע אדוני ויחר אפו ותבער בם אש אדוני ותאכל בקצה המחנה ויצעק העם אל משה ויתפלל משה אל אדוני ותשקע האש ויקרא שם המקום ההוא תבערה כי בערה בם אש אדוני והאספסוף אשר בקרבו יתאבו תאווה וישבו ויבכו גם בני ישראל ויאמרו מי יאכלנו בשר זכרנו את הדגה אשר נאכל במצרים חינם את הקישואים ואת האבטיחים ואת החציר ואת הבצלים ואת השומים ועתה נפשנו יבשה אין כל בלתי אל המן איננו והמן כי זרע גד הוא ואינו כאין הבדולח שתו העם ולקטו וטחנו ברחיים עוד דחו במדוחה ובישלו בפירור ועשו אותו עוגות והיה טעמו כטעם לשד השמן וברדת הטל על המחנה לילה ירד המן עליו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. What's the second one?
We'd like to thank Steffi Graf, no, not the tennis player, for taking the first Aliyah. And the Torah reading continues in our edition, page 828, chapter 11, verse 10 in the Hebrew or the English.
Touching kids here. And first line.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Hold the Torah here. Amen. Good job. וישמע משה את העם בוכה למשפחותיו איש לפתח אוהלו וייחל אף אדוני מאוד ובני משה רע ויאמר משה אל אדוני למה הרעות לעבדך ולמה לא מצאתי חן בעיניך לשום את מסע כל העם הזה עלי האנוכי הריתי את כל העם הזה אם אנוכי ילדתיהו כי תאמר אלי, שאהו בחיקך, כאשר יישא האומן את היונק על האדמה, אשר נשבעת לאבותיו. מאין לי בשר לתת לכל העם הזה, כי יבכו עלי לאמור, תנה לנו בשר ונאכלה, לא אוכל אנוכי לבדי לשאת את העם, את כל העם הזה, כי כבד ממני, ואם ככה, אתה עושה לי, הרגני נא הרוג, אם מצאתי חן בעיניך, ואל אראה ברעתי. ויאמר אדוני אל משה, אספה לי 70 איש מזקני ישראל, אשר ידעת כי הם זקני העם ושוטריו, ולקחת אותם אל אוהל מועד, והתייצבו שם עמך, וירדתי ודיברתי עמך שם, ועצלתי מן הרוח אשר עליך, ושמתי עליהם ונשאו אותך, ונשאו איתך במסע העם, ולא תישא אתה לבדך, ואל העם תאמר התקדשו למחר. ואכלתם בשר כי בכיתם באוזני אדוני לאמור מי יאכלנו בשר כי טוב לנו במצרים ונתן אדוני לכם בשר ואכלתם.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'Hayei Olav V'Tavdu Teheinu Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. The Torah continues, verse 19 in the Hebrew or the English, page 830, and I hope you're all following along with a very special Ba'alat Koreh. Jonathan's older sister Rebecca is the Torah reader for this Aliyah, and I think she's taking the Aliyah as well.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam
Baruch
Vaed.
Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Lo yom, 1 second. Hold it here, 1 second. Put the microphone to you. Okay, go.
Amen. Lo yom ehad tohelu velo yomayim velo hamisha yamin velo asara yamim velo esrim yom ad hodesh yamin ad asher yetzeh me'apehem v'haya lahem lezara yan ki me'aseh et Adonai asher bekifehem v'tivku lefanav lemor lema'azeh yatzanu mimitrayim v'yomer Moshe shesh me'ot elef ragli ha'am asher nuhi behibo ve'ata amarta basar etein lahem v'tivku ve'achlu hodesh yamim v'atzon I lost my place. Vatzon uvakar isha hate lahem umatzah lahem et kol דגת הים, יאסף להם ומצא להם.
Okay, say the blessing. Baruch.
ברכו את אדוני.
Baruch.
ברוך אדוני. Wait, oh my God.
Baruch Adonai.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורה אמת וחיי עולם ואתה בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Good job, Rebecca. And I have to
Good
say,
job.
Rebecca was the first COVID bat mitzvah that we did over Zoom back in April of 2020. She did an amazing job. Her father was sort of the techno engineer who arranged the whole thing. But it's much nicer having her in person chant from the Torah. And now taking the next aliyah is her older brother, Jordan. He'll be chanting this aliyah beginning verse 23 at the bottom of the page in the Hebrew or the English, page 830.
Shlomo.
Okay, take your corner.
Baruch et Adonai.
Jacob, wait, Jacob. We're not running anywhere. We have bar mitzvah today. Baruch. Go.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Morach L'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Hold it here. Slowly. We have time.
Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Hayadonai tiksar, ata tireh, hayikra devari imlo. Vayitze Moshe, vayidaber el ha'am et divrei Adonai, vayesoch shivim ish, miziknei ha'am, vayamed otam sevivot ha'ohel, vayered Adonai be'anan, vayidaber elav, vayatzel, min haruach asher elav, vayitain al shivim ish hazikenim, vayihi kenoach alehem haruach, vayitnabe'u velo yasafu, vayisha'aru shnei anashim bimheneh shem, ha'echad eldad v'shem, ha'sheni medad v'tanach, alehem haruach, Vehema b'chaduvim v'lo yatsu ha'ohela v'yinabe'u b'machaneh v'yarot hana'ar v'yiged leMoshe v'yomer aledad umedad minabe'im b'machaneh v'yan Yehoshua bin Nun misharet Moshe mibchura v'yomar Adoni Moshe kela'im v'yomer lo Moshe hammekaneh atali umiyitain kolam Adonai nevi'im ki tein Adonai et rucho alehem.
Good job. Touching case. Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Good job. I would like to say some comments that Rebecca gonna be read something to the high holiday, and of course Jacob also, Jordan, I'm sorry, and Jordan also read on August 14 the Haftorah and the Torah. So if you want to hear him back again, please come in August 14.
Of course, the cantor chooses the Shabbat and I'm away. Chas shalom, ebach. But I do look forward to hearing both of them on the high holidays. And since you said it in Shul on Shabbos, Rebecca, it's set now. You have to do it. There's no turning back. We continue with the Torah reading, page 832, verse 30. And taking this aliyah is Jonathan and Rebecca and Jordan's maternal grandfather.
Baruch Adonai Havarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch
Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bo habornu mikol ha'amim v'nosam lanu es Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
אמן. ויאסף משה אל המחנה הוא זקני ישראל ורוח נשא מאת אדוני ויגס אל אבי מן הים ויטוש על המחנה כדרך יום כה. וכדרך יום כה סביבות המחנה, וכ200 על פני הארץ. ויקום העם כל היום ההוא וכל הלילה, וכל יום המחרת, ואספו את הסלב הממעיט, אסף 10 חמרים, וישטחו להם שטוח סביבות המחנה. הבשר עודנו בין שיניהם, טרם יכרת, ואף אדוני יכרה בעם, ויח אדוני בעם מכה רבה מאוד, ויקרא את שם המקום ההוא קברות התאווה, כי שם קברו את העם המתאבים, מקברות התאווה נשאו העם חצרות, ויהיו בחצרות.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nasa lanu Torah sames v'chaya olam natabas Eloheinu Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen.
And the Torah reading continues, page 833, chapter 12, verse 1 in the Hebrew or the English, page 833. Taking this aliyah are Jonathan's paternal grandparents.
No, don't confuse me. Don't touch the microphone, touch the Torah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamborah.
Baruch Adonai borach l'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bocha bonu mikol ha'amim v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. I don't need the microphone.
You have a great voice. Hold it point.
You got it.
אמן, ותדבר מרים ואהרון במשה על אודות האישה הכושית אשר לקח, כי אישה כושית לקח, ויאמרו הרק אך במשה דיבר אדוני, הלא גם בנו דיבר, וישמע אדוני, ואיש משה עניו מאוד מכל האדם אשר על פני האדמה, ויאמר אדוני פתאום אל משה ואל אהרון ואל מרים, צאו שלושתכם אל אוהל מועד, ויצאו שלושתם, וירד אדוני בעמוד ענן, ויעמוד פתח האוהל, ויקרא אהרון ומרים, ויצאו שניהם, ויאמר שמעו נא דברי, אם יהיה נביאכם אדוני, כמראה אליו אתוודע, בחלום אדבר בו. לא כן עבדי משה, בכל ביתי נאמן הוא, פה אל פה אדבר בו, ומראה ולא בחידות, ותמונות אדוני יביט, ומדוע לא ירתם לדבר בעבדי משה, וייחר אף אדוני בם וילך, והענן שר מעל האוהל, והנה מרים מצורעת כשלג, ויפן אהרון אל מרים, והנה מצורעת, ויאמר אהרון אל משה, בי אדוני אל נא תשת עלינו חטאת, אשר נועלנו ואשר חטאנו, אל נא תהי כמת אשר בצאתו מרחם אמו, ויאכל חצי בשרו, ויצעק משה אל אדוני לאמור, אל נא רפא לה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher notan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natabas Eloheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Reading continues with the 7th aliyah, page 835, verse 14. Jonathan's parents taking this aliyah. I also want to point out the story you just may have read was about Miriam and Aaron who basically confronted God about Moses and an exalted place of leadership. And God is so incensed that he punishes Miriam with leprosy. The idea being that leprosy was a punishment for speaking Lashon Hara, or maybe it wasn't leprosy, it could have been psoriasis, some sort of skin affliction. And she's not healed until Moses says, El na rafana la, God, please heal her now. The idea about how careful we have to be with our words. Again, page 835, verse 14 in the Hebrew and the English, and chanting this aliyah will be Jonathan Perlman, our Bechor HaBar Mitzvah.
Okay, take your coin of your talit.
Baruch Adonai Borach L'olam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer Adonai El Moshe V'haviha Yerok Yerak Bifaneha Halo Tikalem Shivat Yamim Shisager Shivat Yamim Mihud Samahanet V'ha'ar Te'asef V'tisager Miriam Mihud Samahanet Shivat Yamim V'ha'am Lo Nasa'ad Ha'asef Miriam V'ha'ar Nasehu Ha'am Mehad Serot V'hanu Bimidbar Paran.
Amen. Good job. Baruch.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Temet V'chayei Olam Nata B'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Please rise.
And put the pointer underneath it. Put the next one so you see it.
You stay.
Yes, you do.
Jonathan. Chatzi Kaddish. Johnny. Go.
Yikada v'yitkada shemei rabba ve'amad divra kirute ve'amlik malchute v'hayehon uv'yomehon uv'hayedeho beit Yisrael bagala uv'izman karim ve'imeru amen yehi shmei rabba mevora le'olam ulam me'omaya yitbara v'yitztaba ve'yitpar ve'yitrama ve'yitnaseh V'yit hadar, v'yit halel, shemei dekudesh abrihu, le'elam mikol birhata v'shirata, tush behata v'ne'emata, davi ram be'ama, v'imeru, amen.
I'm going to recite Mishaberach, a prayer of well-being for all those in our community who are sick or ailing. If you have the name of someone, please come forward. You can whisper the name to me in the Hebrew or the English or the Yiddish or the Farsi. It doesn't matter if they're Jewish or not, but in that way we'll pray for their speedy and their hopeful recovery. Mishaberach Amatein Raham Yitzchak V'Yakov Tzedakah Cholayahu Yivarech V'Yipei Kolim Kilateinu et Gila bat Heshmat Elazar ben Rachel Paul P. Rick Kramer. No threat but no need. Anybody else? No? Any other names?
Yes.
Elisheva bat Neta.
Yechiel ben Yonah.
Yechiel ben Yonah. V'kolam kila hakadosh hakadosh baruch hu milei rachamim aleiham l'skam b'tak m'shar v'fushim l'misham amayim refuat nefesh refuat aguf b'toch shach le'yisrael shban mizrok r'far kravo lavo hashal b'gazman kari v'no mahar. Amen. And we'll say now a special inclusive Mishaberach, a prayer of well-being for all those, for the brave men and women serving on our behalf in the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, along with the armed forces of the United States of America. The cantor informed me, is that true? Joe, our president has COVID? Okay, so for him as well, everyone that serves our country, our adopted homeland, our eternal homeland, we want to remain safe. So an inclusive Mishaberach.
Please repeat after me. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל, העומדים על שמרתנו ועליהם גרונותינו בנאמר מצרים, מן הים הגדול לדובו הרבה ביבשה באוויר ובים. ייתן אדוני את עוננו כמין הגפים לפניהם, הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמרם ויצילם מכל צרה וצוקה, מכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ועטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם להושיע אתכם. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל, ונאמר אמן.
You may be seated.
I think you need to start the service now.
Well, we were told 11:45.
Yes, absolutely. You may be seated. יעמוד, 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 יעמוד בחורם בר מצווה, יצחק אשר בן אהרון שלמה וליבה לאה, מפטיר בכבוד. Stay near him, here. Wait, take a corner if you tell it. Don't worry about it.
I'm not worried.
No, either Jonathan not worried. Okay, Baruch.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Morach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorah leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen.
Vayomer Adonai el Moshe v'haviha yarok yarach bifaneha halo tikalem shivat yamim tisager shivat yamim mihutz lamahanet v'ha'arte asef v'tisager Miriam mihutz lamahanet shivat yamim ya'am v'ha'am lo nasa'at asef Miriam v'ha'ar nasa'u ha'am mehat serot v'ha'nu b'midbar paran. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata betokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen.
It's my pleasure, no, stay here for a minute, on the occasion of his publicly becoming a bar mitzvah in front of friends and family, to say a special Misha Berach for young Jonathan in the Hebrew and the English. Misha Berach Amatam Yitzchak Yaakov Zikach Le'Eliyahu Yivorech et Yitzchak Asher ben Aharon Shlomo Veliba Leah Shehagia LeMitzvot V'ala Likvod HaMakom Likvod HaTorah Likvod HaShabbat HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shirei V'Chayehu V'Chonei Lirbo L'Yei Shleim Im Adonai Elohav L'Go B'Torah L'Lech L'Bijachal L'Shmor Mitzvotav V'Shlach Bracha V'Tzachal Chol Masay Yadav Yirtzon Yishuz Korolav L'Galo L'Tolal Uchu Palu Masim Tovim V'Yimsachan V'Sechel Tov B'Nei Elohim V'Adam V'Nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless Jonathan Perlman, who has been called to the Torah upon reaching the age of mitzvot with reverence for God and the Torah and Shabbat. May the Holy One protect and sustain him, helping him to be wholehearted in his faith, to study Torah and fulfill mitzvot, and to walk in God's ways. May his parents rear him to maturity, guiding him to love of Torah, of Jewish learning, to the chuppah. Do we know what that is? The marriage canopy, right. But first we've got probably Rebecca and Jordan's to worry about, and then yours. No? You don't? Okay, you'll be first. Not Jordan, okay. To a life of good deeds. May Jonathan find favor before God and all the community, and let us all say, Amen. Hold on to those candies. We're going to wait to toss them until after his Haftarah in several minutes. But I will ask everyone to please rise as the Sefer Torah is lifted and tied.
Call up the people, they're coming to you now. They're coming to you. Go let it. You know what to do, boss?
No, give me direction.
Lift it up.
With the
open it
cover
a
on?
bit. No. Then you make a circle.
Circle
Then-
where? Right here?
Make it go around.
Right here. Perfect.
Let's go.
Open it up.
Open it up. Yes. Lift it up. Up, up.
Bizo
Turn around.
Tatorah Asher
Circle.
Sa Moshe Lifnei
go the
Bnei
other way?
Yisrael Al Pi Adonai Biyad Moshe. You may be seated. The Haftarah for this Shabbat, I'm not going to talk about too much because Jonathan will in his Devar Torah, in his sermon, but it's read twice a year. It's read this Shabbat, and then it's read the Shabbat of Hanukkah, because there's always at least one Shabbat during Hanukkah, mostly because it has a vision in which Zechariah sees the ancient menorah, the seven-branch candelabra, which we have here up on the bima, flanked by olive branches. That was so inspirational, by the way. It became the seal of Israel, the modern state of Israel, and still the seal of Israel to this day. Just like in America, we have an eagle with a shield and arrows in its talons. The Haftarah can be found on page 836, page 836. The Hebrew and English text from the prophet Zechariah or Zechariah in the following pages. And chanting the Haftarah for us this Shabbat morning, of course, is our Bachor HaBar Mitzvah, our Bar Mitzvah boy, Jonathan Perlman.
Wait.
Take it away, Johnny.
Take your binder.
Here's Johnny.
Wait. You want to drink something? Okay. That's organized to you. Everything gonna be nice. Put it here. Don't start. Don't start.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar bin v'ihim tovim v'rasat v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'vinviei ha'emet v'asedek Roni v'shimhi bat Zion ki hineni vaha v'shachanti v'tohech ne'um Adonai v'nilevu goyim rabim el Adonai bayom hahu v'hayuli le'am v'shachanti v'tohech v'yadat ki Adonai sevaot shelachani elai v'nahal Adonai et Yehuda helko al admat ha'kodesh uvaharot b'Yerushalayim Hasko basar mipnei Adonai ki neor mimot kodsho vayareini et Yehoshua hakohen hagadol omeid lifnei malach Adonai v'hasatan omeid al yaminot lesitno Vayomer Adonai el hasatan yigar Adonai beha hasatan veyigar Adonai beha haboher b'Yerushalayim halo ze'un mutzal me'esh ve'hoshuha hayalavush begatim so'im ve'omed lifnei hamalach vayan vayomer El Hamedim Lifanav Lemor Hasihiru Habigadim Hatsuim Me'alav Vayomer Elav Re'ei Hevarti Me'alecha Avoneha Ve'al Beishoteha Mahalatzot Valmar Yasihimu Sanitahor Al Rosho Vayasihimu Hasani Hatahor Al Rosho Vayabishuhu Bigadim Umalach Adonai Omeid Vayan malach Adonai behoshuha lemor. Kol mahar Adonai sevaot. Im dirahai telech ve'im et mishmartihi tishmor ve'gam ata tadihin et beiti ve'gam tishmor et hatzerai ve'natati leha malchim bein ha'omedim ha'elech shemanaha Yehoshuha hakohen hagadol. Ata vereyeha hayashvihin livneha ki anshe mofet heima ki hineni mevi et avdi zema ki hine ha'even asher natati livnei Yehoshuha al even achat teina. Shivat einayim hineni mifateach pituha neum Adonai sevaod umashti et avon haaretz hahi beyom echad bayom hahu neum Adonai sevaod tichru ish lere'ehu el tahat gefen vel tahat te'ena. Vayashav hamalach hadaber bi vayireni keish asher yeor mishnato vayomer elai ma'ata roeh v'omar ra'iti vehine menurat zahav kula vegula al rosha Veshiva neroteha aleha shiva veshiva musakod lanerot asher al rosha ushnayim setim aleha echad mimihin hagula vehechad al semolach Va'an v'amar el hamalach hadaber bi lemor ma'elech Adoni Vayan hamalach hadaber bi vayomer elai halo yadata mahema elech v'amar lo Adoni Vayan vayomer elai lemor zedevar Adonai el Zerubbabel lemor lo behayil velo behoha ki emberihi amar Adonai sevaot miatar or hagadol livnei Zerubbabel lemishor vehozi et ha'even harosha teshuot hein la Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zorko holamim tzaddik behol hadorot ha'el hane'eman ha'omer vehoseh ha'meraber umkayim shehol devarav emet v'asedech ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emanim devarecha v'davar echad midevarecha ahor lo yashuv rekam ki el melech ne'eman v'rahama atah Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'ne'eman behol devarav Rachem al Sion ki hi beit hayenu ve'le'uluvat nefesh toshia b'mehera ve'yamenu Baruch atah Adonai mesameach Sion ve'varneha Samehenu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Eliyahu hanavi avdecha uvemalachut beit David mishahecha b'mehera yavo vayagel libenu al kise'odo yeshev zar ve'lo yinhalu od acharim et kevodo Ki v'shem kodshecha nishbata lo shelo hikbe neirot leolam va'et Baruch atah Adonai Magen David al hatorat va'al havodah va'al hanevi'im va'ol yom hashabat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu lekidusha velimenucha lekovod uletif aret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu aneknu modim lach umevarechim otacha yitbarach shimecha Bipi kol chai tamid leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Good job. Dear friend, slowly, 1 second. Now time to throw gently the candy, please. Okay, dear friend, now I would like to hear you clapping with us. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Siman Tov, Mazel Tov. I cannot hear you. Siman Tov. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov. Okay, good job. Yehelanu. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov. Yehelanu.
Jonathan Perlman.
Yehelanu, Yehelanu. ולכל ישראל יהלנו יהלנו ולכל ישראל דוד מלך ישראל חי וקיים דוד מלך ישראל חי וקיים. Let's do fast. And סימן טוב ומזל טוב, מזל טוב, סימן טוב ומזל טוב, מזל טוב וסימן טוב, סימן טוב ומזל טוב ומזל טוב וסימן טוב. יהלנו, 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 ולכל ישראל. יהלנו, יהלנו, ולכל ישראל. דוד מלך ישראל חי וקיים. דוד מלך ישראל חי וקיים. ג'ונתן פרלמן.
So in addition to so deftly dodging and actually catching one of those fruit candy projectiles and chanting for us the Torah, the Haftarah, leading us in portions of service, Jonathan has prepared a Devar Torah, some words of Torah about that which he and I have studied together these past several months. And he's going to deliver it for you while speaking slowly and clearly, and not forgetting to enunciate each and every word. While he knows the lines, while flashing that beautiful smile of his. But don't be nervous. Here's something you didn't count on me saying. Without any further ado, here's Johnny.
As Al Michaels once said, do you believe in miracles? Who would have thought that I would have successfully chanted my Haftorah and Torah portion this morning? My Haftorah is Bahalotaha. In my Haftorah portion, Zechariah has a vision that the temple will be rebuilt and how the Jewish people would light the menorah with olive branches flanking it to fuel it. Once again, Zechariah explains that the candelabra symbolizes God and the lights. The lamps on the menorah also symbolize the 7 heavenly bodies. The menorah was so big, you had to walk up on steps to light it. It is like me going up to the bima and getting an aliyah. That is where the ascent comes from, as the title of my Torah portion, Bahalotaha, means to rise up or ascend. I am so proud to stand here before you, as I have risen up to the occasion and become a bar mitzvah man this morning. In other parts of my life, I have and will need to continue to rise to the occasion. In camp, after being drafted first overall for my team in our hockey league, I rose to the occasion by leading my team to the semifinals. Having a second chance in life stands for something. You had to sacrifice a lamb on Passover in biblical times. If you were traveling or were ritually unclean because of contact with a corpse, you had the chance to celebrate Passover a month later. The Jewish people wanted to know if they were allowed to, so they went to Moses and asked if he could celebrate a month later. He said, I don't know, ask God. That is why a second chance is so important. At the end of the reading, Moses has his own brother and sister go against him. His sister Miriam got punished with leprosy by God. This is like me and my siblings fighting and turning on each other, and then something bad happens to one of us. I have one of the few Haftorahs read here. My brother Jordan also read it, as it has to do with lighting the menorah the Shabbat of Hanukkah. Being a bar mitzvah means that I have to respect my parents, give tzedakah, and keep coming to temple. I am also counted as a minyan. Banana. Can chant from the Torah, and just like my shoulder pads and skates in hockey, I now get to wear a tallit and wrap tefillin, the uniform of a Jewish man. I want to thank everyone who got me here. I want to thank you, Rebecca, for being such a great sister. It is so fun playing board games with you and having basketball lessons. However, it is not fun getting my hair pulled and getting kicked out of your room. I want to thank you, Jordan, for being such a great brother. It is so much fun inventing games with you, like Frisbee baseball, beating you in ping pong and Papa Shot, and playing Xbox. I will always be better than you. To all of my aunts, uncles, and cousins, it is so fun having barbecues, having meals at the club, and going on vacation with you guys. Angeline, we always had the best time hanging out on Saturday nights, going for walks on vacation, and playing cards. Uncle Josh, it is so fun going to basketball and baseball games with you, playing basketball and football in the backyard, and sleeping over at your apartment. To Grandma Pat and Grandpa David, baking cookies with you is so fun. The overflowing bubble baths were the best, and going to your office and eating candy is so fun. To Grandma Shelley and Grandpa Larry, thank you for helping me prepare and listen to me on our weekly calls. I always enjoyed going to the Oak Chalet and then sleeping over at your house, and I miss going to see movies and Broadway shows with you. It really means a lot to me that my very first teacher, Miss Alone, is here today. Mr. Gross, I want to thank you for teaching me my Haftorah and all of my prayers. I also enjoyed being in your class this year. Rabbi Stenger, I want to thank you for teaching me all of these years and helping me with my sermon. Kenta Caravani, thank you for teaching me all of these years and helping me prepare for my bar mitzvah. I also want to thank the community here at OWHC. I have been coming here since nursery school, and it is an honor for me to become a bar mitzvah in front of all you guys this morning. Mom and Dad, you guys thought I forgot about you. You guys are so nice, kind, funny, and loving. Although you were on the board, you always find time to be with me and spend time with me. It is so fun explaining sport games with you and watching the Rangers game with you. Shabbat Shalom.
All right, let's take a second and take a breath. So first of all, I have to say, when I told my wife that you were having your bar mitzvah this morning, she was like, wait a minute, little Jonathan Perlman, that kid from preschool with all the blonde hair and the glasses who was running around? I'm like, he's having his bar mitzvah? I was like, yeah, that's right. I still have this vision. I think it was some Shabbat program. There was something where you got upset. Maybe your brother and sister were torturing you, and you ran down the hall crying. And I remember Chaya Karani saw, and she couldn't help laughing because you were so cute, even when you were upset. Like we had this Messy Marvin character. Do you remember from the commercials? Generation X, and that's who you represent. Of course, now you're a man. You've grown up, and I have to tell my wife, like, yeah, he's not in preschool anymore. I mean, he's becoming a real mensch. And if it's bittersweet this morning, because it is a little bit, it's that this is the final Perlman child that we get to officiate at his bar mitzvah, because we really loved working with your family. We loved working with your older brother Jordan. We loved working with Rebecca, even though it was in the time of COVID. And it's really just been an honor. We love having your family in this community. Your mom, of course, was on the board for a bit. We'd maybe love to get her back. Your father, of course, I'd like to get him to speak his mind a little bit more, and hold forth. But, he's a great guy, great sense of humor. We do love hearing your brother chant on Purim, and this year for the High Holidays, of course, and getting Rebecca to chant as well, and maybe you, now that you're a bar mitzvah. And it's a privilege to have the Perlman paterfamilias, the Perlman clan in this community. So thank you for that. I want to ask you now to just bend your head, and the cantor and I are going to bestow upon you the Birkat Kohanim, the priestly benedictions, in the Hebrew and the English.
Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May the Lord bless you and keep you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May the Lord God gaze upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom.
May the Lord God shine his countenance upon you and extend to you and your family a lifetime of health, happiness, and most of all, what we need in this world today, peace. Very good. Oh, he even got the line down. So we do have some special presents and gifts that we're going to bestow upon you in just a moment. I think, was it yesterday when I mentioned that it would be Sandra Weingarten who presents the gifts? Your father said, oh, isn't that great? You get to be hugged by the president. But first, I do want to give you something. You probably remember these from your brother and sister's B'nai Mitzvah, but you told me these are your favorite colors. I'm going to put them here in the bag and take them home with you. Jim, what's the drill?
On your wedding day, and then give one to your wife and one to you and you eat them.
Well, first, though, what do you have to do before you? They're not going to keep until your wedding day, even if it's just...
Freeze them.
Freeze them, right? Put them in the freezer, and then the week before your wedding day, let them thaw out, and you and your life partner, your special someone, you let them, you each consume one. The idea you're going from simcha to simcha, from one joyous occasion to another, right? And now, again, we have some gifts to bestow upon you from our president, Sandra Weingarten, Esquire.
Good morning, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Mazel Tov to Sam and Leslie, your extended family, your grandparents, your aunts, uncles, and cousins. I've had the good fortune of knowing Jonathan and your entire family probably since the time you came here. Our kids, you went to preschool with my kids, and we've sort of grown up here together. And not only is this the last Perlman bar mitzvah, it's our last bar mitzvah of this school year. And I do remember Rebecca as being the first COVID bat mitzvah that I watched over Zoom, so it's sort of a nice bookend here. But your family proves what I have told people over the years, that when you send your child to a Jewish preschool and you're committed to Jewish education, they make all of this look very easy. So Mazel Tov. I love in your sermon how you said that you've been rising up to the occasion, and you certainly have. I don't know the Messy Marvin reference, but when my husband Scott first met you, he thought you were more like Mikey from the Life cereal commercial, which again is a reference you kids won't get, but your parents will. It was a joy watching you run around here as a toddler with all this blonde hair and these dark glasses, and now you are a young man, and it is amazing to watch your growth and to be with your family on this journey. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Old Westbury Hebrew Congregation, it is my pleasure to present some gifts. First, a bar mitzvah certificate commemorating your achievements here today, as well as an invitation from our local JCC for a teen membership for the upcoming year. In addition to your candies, we have a portable copy of the Eitz Chaim in our bag and a Kiddush cup. So, wait, I'm supposed to give you a hug according to your dad. Mazel tov to you, to everybody. Thank you all for joining us today, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. You can clap, it's okay. And just take this, your first official copy of your first public speech, so when you become famous, you have something to show people for posterity. And if people are trying to remember the Messy Marvin reference, I don't know the name of the actor. He's old now, he's like my age. But if you ever see A Christmas Story from 1983, it was that actor. So I'm going to ask Jonathan, remain standing along with your parents and your brother and sister. And your grandparents can rise too if they'd like. We're going to say a very special bracha, the Shehecheyanu. We say this on special occasions, and I think it's quite fitting to say it now. If you could repeat after me, the Patriarch Perlman's. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu, v'kiyamanu, v'higiyanu, lazman hazeh. Praised are you, Lord our God, sovereign of the universe, who has kept us and sustained us and caused us to arrive at this most auspicious occasion, to many more Shehecheyanu moments together in your future. Amen. Selah. And now I'd like to ask everyone to turn to page 151 for the Ashrei. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Rise. Please, everyone rise to page 148. We're going to be led in a prayer for our country in the English, bottom of page 148. Take it as close as you can to the mic.
Thank you.
A prayer for our country. O God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country, for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah, that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creed forge a common bond in true harmony to banish hatred and bigotry, and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land, under your providence, be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nations shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say, Amen.
And a prayer for the modern state of Israel, top of page 149.
Avinu Shemaiah, Rock and Redeemer of the people Israel, bless the state of Israel with its promise of redemption, shield it with your love, spread it over the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel, strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy, and let us say, Amen.
Avinu, Avinu, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. Avinu, sing with me, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. ברך, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו, הגן עליה בעברת חסדך, ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך. אבינו,
אבינו, שבת
Please join me.
צור ישראל וגואלו.
Again.
אבינו, אבינו, שבת שמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו.
ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה ויועציה, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך. אבינו,
אבינו,
שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. אבינו,
אבינו,
שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. חזק את ידי מגיני ארץ קודשנו והנחילם אלוהינו ישועה, ועטרת ניצחון תעטרם, ונתת שלום בארץ, ושמחת עולם ליושביה, ונאמר Amen.
You may be seated. Jonathan leads us responsively in the Ashrei, middle of 151.
אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהלו הסלע.
Ashrei shekacha lo, Ashrei shadonai Eloha.
תהילה לדוד, ארומים האלוהי המלך, וארבע השמחה לעולם ועד.
V'chol yamam arechecha, v'lo shimcha לעולם ועד.
גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, ולגדולתו אין היכר.
דור לדור ישבח מעשיך, יגיד.
הדר כבוד הודיה, ודברי נפלאותיה עשייה.
וזוזנותיך יאמרו גדולתך ספרנה.
זהר טוב היביעו, וזיתך ירננו.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדל חסד.
טוב Tov Adonai lechol verahamav chol ma'asav.
Baruch Adonai kol maasecha v'chasidecha yevarchucha.
Kevod malchut hayomeru uvurata yiraber. Malchut ha-malchut kol olamim u'masecha hol davor vador.
Somech Adonai l'chol hanoflim, zevkef l'chol hakfufim.
Hol elecha yisaberu ve'ata notei lahem et be'ito. Sadik Adonai behol devaraha ve'chasir hol ma'asav. Rezon yirei al ya'aseh ve'et shabbat yismai ve'yoshien. Tehilat Adonai yidaber pi v'yivarecha Shem chutro elam va'ed Achnu kevaret yam me'atav.
Hallelujah. We rise, page 153, Aknasat Sefer Torah. This serves for returning the Torah scroll to the ark, page 153.
Please come with me. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Ki nizkar shmo levado, chodo al eretz, לשמיים, וירם קרן לאחו, הילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל הקרובו. הללויה, הללויה, מזמור את האבים, עבור אדוני בני אלי, עבור אדוני שכב לכבוד, עבור אדוני שכבוד שמו, ישתחוו לאדוני בארץ קודש. כל אדוני וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום, ובנוכו יאמר שכבוד נורא בתוך ישראל, קום אדוני למנוחתך, תעבר ענוזך, כהן אל בצק וחסרך עלינו בעבודה בדברך, אל תשב פני משיחך, כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם, תורתי אל תעזובו. עץ חיים היא, המחזיקים בה, בתומכיה מאושר. דרכי נועם, בכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו. חדש ימינו ככתר.
You may be seated. Shabbat Shalom. So I have a question I'd like to put out there. If I said, who here knows about a date on the Hebrew calendar known as Pesach Sheni, or the second Passover, raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. All right, I got one hand up there. Anybody else? Maybe a couple here and there. And when I say the second Passover, I'm not talking about the second Seder night, which everyone observes in the diaspora outside the land of Israel. When I was assistant rabbi, my senior was convinced it was the best creation in the world, the best invention, because every married couple, it gave them an out, because you could go one night to your in-laws, and the next night you could have it with your parents, or you could have it at home, and then you could go the next night to your spouse's family's home. But Pesach Sheni is something different altogether. And it's mentioned in this week's Torah reading, as was pointed out by our bar mitzvah boy, Jonathan Perlman, right? Pesach Sheni is what happens when the Israelites were a full year wandering in the desert. And Moses instructs them, we're a year out now, we're going to observe Pesach again. We're going to have Korban Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice, which was one of the most integral points of the Seder meal, along with maror and matzah. These were the days before wine was required and singing Chad Gadya and Maxwell House Haggadah and things like that. But those were the three most important components of the Pesach meal. And they're going to observe it now and celebrate it a year out. But then a couple of men come to him after the fact and say, look, we've got a problem. We weren't able to take part in the mitzvah, the commandment this year, because we had to bury a corpse, right? Which is also a mitzvah, right? Tending to a burial. It's unfortunate, but it happens to everybody in his or her life. And because we were unclean, ritually unclean, we couldn't take part in the sacrifice of the lamb, right? Remember, again, in the days when we had the sanctuary, and then when the temple stood in Jerusalem, sacrifice, animal sacrifice, was the most important component to drawing close to God. This was before prayer. And if you were ritually contaminated by contact with a corpse, which would have happened anytime you made preparations for a death or a burial, then you couldn't offer the sacrifice. And they said, what are we to do? Right? Are we supposed to be punished as a result? Are we supposed to miss out? And Moses answers in a very truthful way, which is what all leaders should say if they don't have the answer ready. You know what? Let me check with God, right? Let me check with my divine supervisor. Today you might Google the answer, but he checks with God, and God says, okay, here's what we're going to do. Anytime somebody can't offer the special Pesach sacrifice because they were ritually contaminated, right? They had to take care of a burial. Or maybe they were traveling, something that couldn't be avoided. They're to observe it 1 month later. Exactly 1 month later, according to the Hebrew calendar, on the 14th day of Iyar, in the afternoon, before sundown, they take part in the ritual slaughter of this lamb or goat, along with maror and matzah. By the way, in case you're wondering, they don't have to refrain from chametz and everything like that the rest of the week. That only applies during Pesach itself in the month of Nisan. But now it became an official date of the Hebrew calendar. And for those who are regular shul goers, it actually is on the Luach, the calendar that we use, and it's a day to this day when special penitential prayers are not said because it is the second Pesach. Right? No one necessarily would observe it today or know about it unless you're a very strict shul goer, because the truth is we're all contaminated. I hate to say we're all ritually impure. At some point we've all come in contact with a dead body because we've all been to a cemetery, or we've all been to a funeral home for a funeral, or we've been in a hospital where there's always going to be a dead body around. I mean, if you're a med student, you become contaminated right away the very first time you have to work on a cadaver. But we're all ritually impure in this day and age, hence there's no need for Pesach Sheni, but we don't offer sacrifices anymore either, because we don't have a temple. But I want to just take it a step further. Outside the ritualistic realm, the whole idea about getting this duo, getting a second chance, with most things in life, maybe not everything, but with most things in life, we do get a second chance. We do have a second opportunity to perform something, to do something we missed out on, maybe even to make amends, right? There's often a second chance in life. But here's what we have to remember. There's a second chance in life if you're willing to be proactive. if you're willing to take the steps necessary, if you're willing to do the work. In the case, what we have in the story of Pesach Sheni, the two men came to Moses, they admitted what had happened, and they said, we want to be able to observe it, we don't want to miss out, we don't want to be blamed for not having taken part in this mitzvah, this commandment. And Moses not having the answer off the top of his head, which shows you, by the way, that Torah was evolving, right? Torah wasn't just given one time at Sinai, but Torah, even in the desert in its earliest days, was still evolving because, an answer wasn't ready. Moses had to consult with God. The idea being that we have to be willing to sometimes admit that we missed out, maybe that a mistake was made, or through no fault of our own, there was something that we couldn't do, and we have to ask for that extension. We have to ask for that second chance. We have to be willing to put in the work and want to do it. And sometimes it's not always easier. Sometimes it's just easier to say, well, I missed out. Well, too late. But no, if it's important to us, and anything important enough in life you should be willing to seek out that opportunity to be able to perform it, to be able to complete a task, to be able to make amends if necessary. We can do it. We just have to be able to put in the homework. Judaism gives us an out each and every year on the high holy days, right? The opportunity with tshuva, the opportunity to try to make amends between ourselves and God, and between ourselves and our fellow person by asking them forgiveness. We're having an opportunity to do the year over again and try to be better people. Try to make fewer mistakes. And here's something that we should be aware of. If God is willing to give us that opportunity, right, to do things over or to make amends, shouldn't we be willing to take the opportunity to do it? And if God is willing to forgive us for our mistakes, for our shortcomings, shouldn't we be willing to extend that to others? And shouldn't we be willing and brave enough to be able to ask that as well? Someone once said, when in doubt, reach out. It's not always easy to go to another person and say, you know what, I messed up, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't call you when I had the opportunity. I'm sorry I didn't visit when I could have or should have. I'm sorry I said those things, but I'd like to make amends. I'd like to repair our relationship. I'd like to try to get back to where it was. I can't take back the email, I can't take back the text, but I'd like to try to move forward. I'd like to be given a second chance. Are you willing to extend that to me? Right? To try to put a repair in, to try to work at something. We always have the chance, but we have to be willing to do it. Human beings can't be passive people on this planet. One thing we only have one of is one life to live, at least here on earth in this world. So we have to be willing to put in the work. And that means, just as we would want other people to give us that second chance when it counts, there are tests we'd like to be able to take again, right? There are events we missed, shows we couldn't see. We didn't always think to TiVo it. We have to be willing to extend that opportunity to others. And we have to be willing to take the opportunity when it's presented to us. Let's make our life on this world count. Let's try to do things the best way that we can. Let's try to take the opportunity to always claim that do-over, that mulligan. But let's do it. Let's be active participants. And as much as we want that opportunity ourselves, let's not forget to extend it to others when we have the chance. Just a thought and a wish that I wanted to leave you with on this Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. I'd like to ask you all to please rise for the Chatzi Kaddish, page 155, which introduces the Musaf Amidah.
Yigada Vidkada Shemei Rabba Be'amad Ivrat Kirute Ve'amlich Malhute Be'hayehon Uv Yomechon Uv Hayedeho Beit Yisrael
Bagala, Bagala, Uvizman Karim, Veimeru, Amen, Yeheshme Rabba Mevora, Leola Mula Meomaya, Yitbara, Avish Taba, Veit Par, Veit Rama, Veit Nase, Veit Hadar, Veit Halel, Veit Halal, Shemeda Kudashat Brehu, Le Elami Kolbir Hatavishirata, Tush Behata Vene Emata, Davi Rambe Alma, Veimeru, Amen.
We begin the Amidah together from Musaf, page 156b. You'll see me turn my back towards you. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to face in the same direction as all of you, eastward towards Jerusalem and also towards our own Kodesh, the Holy Ark where the Torahs are kept.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור עולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומף נופלים ורופד חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוה בגבורות ומדומה לך, מלך מימי ומחיה ומציע ישועה. ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים. נעריצך ונקדישך כסוד צייה, שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש
קדוש קדוש אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו.
כבודו מעלה עולם, משרתיו שואלים זה לזה, איה מקום מקום כבודו, לאומתם ברוך יאמרו.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
ממקומו הויפם ברחמים, ואחרונם המייחדים שמו ערב ובוקר, בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים באהבה, שמה אומרים,
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד, הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו מושיענו. repeat after me. והוא 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 ישמיענו ברחמה, והוא 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 ישמיענו ברחמיו, שנית 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 לעיני כל חי, להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ודברי קודשך כתוב לאמור,
אני אדוני.
לדור ודור. 1, 2, go.
לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך, ולנצח מצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש,
ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש,
לא ימוש לעולם ועד. Ledor vador. Ledor vador. Ledor vador nagid kolecha. Ki ledor vador. Ledor vador. Ledor vador nagid kolecha. Ki melech gadol kadosh ata. Gadol vekadosh ata.
כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue down silently in the Hebrew or the English through page 161.
Jordan and siblings. Yes, for Jordan.
If we'd like to call up Jonathan's siblings to join him for a moment in Ein Kelohenu. We continue page 181, Kaddish Shalem.
התגדל והתקדש שמי רבה. בעול מה דברה קירותם נופותם חי חולם חולם חד חובת ישראל בעגל הזמן קרב ואימרו. יהי שמי רבה מבורא לעולם עולם יומיה. ברח שתבע והתפע בתרומם והתנשא והתעדה והתעלה והתעלה שמדי קודשה. אלא מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירה במה ואימרו.
אמן.
תתקבץ לא תון ובותון כל ישראל קדם ובון ושמע ואימרו.
אמן.
יש למה רבה משמע וחיים אליו בכל ישראל ואימרו.
אמן. עושה שלום במרומה.
Let me sing together.
הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ביעקב ישראל ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ביעקב ישראל. יעשה שלום, היי, יעשה שלום, היי, שלום עלינו ביעקב ישראל ואמרו אמן. Amen.
Amen. Page 182, Ein Kelohenu, Jonathan, Jordan, and Rebecca Perlman.
Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kamalkenu, Ein Kamoshienu, Mi Kelohenu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kamalkenu, Mi Kamoshienu, Nodel Elohenu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Elohenu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shutiru, Avotenu, Lefaneha, Ketorah Hasamim.
Please rise.
For Aleinu.
We have here help also from the parents.
Such a happy
Shalom.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol latei gedula leyoter berishi shelo asanu kegoye haratzo
Velo Samanu Keshmi Shahot Hadama, Velo Sam Helkenu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Keho Hamona, Vanachnu Korim,
Umishtahavi Umodim,
Livnei Melech Malkein Halahim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notesh Hamayim Veyotze Haaretz, Umoshe Kavaro Bat Hamayim Mima'al, Ushvina Tuzo, Begov Hei Meromim, Hu Eloheinu Eino, Emet Malkeinu Efesu Hato, Kakatu Betorato Ve'adatayom Ve'ashavota Ve'levaveha
Ki Adonai
Hua Elohim Bashamayim Mima'ol Ve'al ha'aretz Mitaha Einod Johnny, you're not done yet.
Jordan, Rebecca, you stay here.
Okay.
ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Mourner's Kaddish, page 184. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich machlutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayid d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'me'el maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yinaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudashah brechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran ve'alma v'imeru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru amen. You may be seated. Just some quick announcements before I turn things over to our superlative Sandra Weingarten, the president of Old Westbury Hebrew Congregation. No announcements? I'll do it, okay. So I just want to announce very quickly, there was first some sad news, Basarot Ra'ot, both Spencer Shimmerin and Stacy Siegel, who's here this morning, and she's on our board of trustees. They lost a parent this past week. Spencer lost his mother, Leona. They sat Shiva this past week, and Stacy lost her father, Dr. Carl Davis, and she will be sitting Shiva tomorrow from 12 to 4 and 5 to 8, correct? 5 to 8 p.m. At 24 Vanan. Drive, right, in East Hills. It's right near you, yes. I always get lost. However many times I've been there, I get lost. But to Stacy, we say, Hamakom yinachamech b'toch she'ar v'leitzim Yerushalayim. May God comfort you amongst all the mourners of Zion in Jerusalem. I know that you don't mourn alone. This community mourns with you. I also want to thank for being here this morning our Director of Family Education, Mindy Kremer, and one of our longtime teachers, Rivka Alon, who was mentioned in the sermon that our bar mitzvah gave, so it's nice to have you here. Also very important, someone who joined us this morning and filled in as Gabbai. I'd like to extend a heartfelt Baruch Haba and Shabbat Shalom to Sheldon Flatow, who's here this morning. He just moved recently to Meadowbrook Point, somewhat recently. So if you have an opportunity, please introduce yourself. Of course, Sandra and I unfortunately met him this past week at the Shimmerin Shiva House, although he was here a few weeks before that for a bar mitzvah. We'd like seeing you better at a simcha. So I know that you're always welcome here. I want to thank the bar mitzvah family, most especially Jonathan, for an amazing job. Torah, Haftorah, portions of the service. Kent Caravani for leading the service. I want to thank our ushers, Paul Sohayig and Herzl Zakai. I want to thank the family for sponsoring Kiddush this morning. Just some other quick announcements. I'll be leaving tomorrow afternoon for vacation. I won't be back till Monday afternoon, July 4th, but I know you are in very good hands. For any pastoral issues that should come up, please contact Cantor Yossi Caravani. For any administrative issues, please contact our Executive Director, Rand Levin. And of course, we have fantastic lay leadership, Sandra Wonka. And I always embarrass her, I know, but I love doing it. And as far as further announcements, tomorrow morning services are resumed 9:30 and 6:15 in the evening. Also, the office is closed on Monday because it's Juneteenth, which means don't call the office, even though it'll be closed, but services will be at 9:30 a.m. Did I leave anything out? No? We're still looking for volunteers who would want to, lane, do Torah or Haftarah in addition to Jordan Perlman, or who'd like to give a Devar Torah. So please let me know. I only have one volunteer for Devar Torah so far, Dr. Howard Sussman, who will be giving the Devar Torah of July 2nd. And I think thank you, Chad. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Dan, for working this Shabbat. And let's do Kiddush and Hamotzi, and then Adon Olam.
First of all, Adon Olam.
First Adon Olam.
Adon Olam.
Right.
So we invite all the friends, kids.
All right, so all of Jonathan's friends from school, from camp, from what have you, from all the sports he plays, please join him up on the bima.
You're my friend. You can make it.
Oh, and his cousins, yes.
And your friends.
Why I love having you up here, yes. And family. Please. Anyone who is not yet bar mitzvah or just had their b'nai mitzvah in the past year.
Yes or no?
Yo, Johnny, bro, I got
Okay. Dear friend, if you know Adon Olam.
Page 187, Adon Olam.
So let's do it. Let's do it.
Thank everyone who joined us over Zoom.
You think you know it? I'm not sure about it because they are speaking Spanish on this synagogue. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Adon Olam Asher Mala B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'et Nasa V'Hesoko Hazai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'ahareh Kilod Hako Levadado Yimlo Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Hoveh Vehu Niyeh B'tifara Vehu Ehad Ve'en Sheni Leham Shilo Lehabira Beli Reshit Beli Tachli Velo Ha'oz Vehamizra Vehu Eli Vehai Goali Vesor Hevli Be'etzira Vehu Nisi Umanosli Menakosi Beyo Mikra Beyado Avkirui Be'eti Shad Ve'imra Ve'imruhi Geviati Adonai Elohira.
Good job, all the kids we have here. Grape juice on the left side, and everybody please coming over here. And we have a wine, cup of wine. Don't drink until Jonathan can say the prayer, please.
Grape juice for the children and wine that tastes like grape juice for the adults. Please come forward and join us.
Where is Jonathan? Jonathan. Jonathan, stay here. Jonathan, stay here. Hey, everyone coming closer, taking out the time, please. Let's say the blessing together.
Well, we've got all this wine that was poured. It's bad luck. Someone has to drink it. So, seriously.
We have enough. We have enough. Please come in the last people. Okay. אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי החפץ.
Amen.
Listen, you can't pour this unless somebody drinks it. Bad luck.